Satan with her friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we'll be starting our memorial service.
Hey everybody, thank you guys for coming out today. This is really cool to see so many people here for our dad. I have a speech, I'm going to read it off my phone so I don't mess it up. So come this January, I'll have lived in LA for 10 years. And it's been pretty hard because, I'm away from my friends and family. But every time I've come home over the past decade, my dad's always been always offering to pick me up from the help talk me through decisions that I have to make my career, or just make some really good food. Which I think we all experience. My whole life, he's always been my biggest supporter. When I was a kid, if there was a sports team that needed coaching, he was there. In high school, when I started running the TV studio, which required me to get there at 6 a.m. every day, he happily drove me in that early every day. At the time, I didn't realize that meant he had to get to the office at 7 a.m. I thought that was normal. As an adult, I know it's not. When I told him I was going to major in film in college, he didn't question. He didn't, the kid says I'm going to major in film. It's like, oh boy. But that's not how he responded. Him and my mom just made sure I had what I needed so I could succeed. And they did the same when I decided to move to LA. I never actually knew until this past week that my dad was sad about me moving away. Because he never told me. Because he didn't want me to feel bad or discourage me from pursuing my dreams. He was always thinking about what was the best way he could help and support me, my mom, and my brothers. I wish he wasn't gone, obviously. But I'm glad that he left us after getting to experience the last few years. Seeing me and Brian and Stephen all find success in our careers definitely made him proud. But also, I imagine, gave him a sense of relief, especially in my case. And getting to meet his two perfect grandkids made him so happy. And I know he thought they were perfect because he would say it to them all the time. As they were tapping on his iPad and doing things little kids do. All the kind words people have shared with us since his passing, and seeing everyone in here today has been great reminders that our family weren't the only people he was always there for. He truly was a great person, and I'm very lucky not only that he was my dad, but that I get to live in a world with so many people whose lives he positively impacted. Thank you guys for coming out today. And my brother Brian's going to speak next.
So I'm not as good at public speaking as my older brother is, but I will try to just read and get through this, what I have to write. I hope it comes across the way that I intended it to. So for those who don't know me, I am Brian, my dad's second son, and it's been really difficult for me and my family these past few days. As it relates to this speech, it has been extraordinarily difficult to know what to say and to do justice to someone who has done so much for so many. In my many iterations of this speech, I've ended up rambling on about all the things that he has done for my family, like his carpentry skills to build garden benches or bookshelves or stairs or even these clocks for my kids. I've also rambled on my past iterations about how my mom babysits my kids in North Jersey a few days every week, and my dad will always send up fresh homemade meals with a menu that changed weekly. He would come up to actually try the food sometimes, but he took pride in his work at Man on Me, and he always wanted to try and keep his volunteer schedule. I could go on and on for ages about these things. More and more things that he did for us. But I'd rather just tell you what he meant to us. It's an equally long list. My mom and dad have always been there for my brothers and I. through school, sports, jobs, relationships. They've always known how to steer us in the right direction. That compass pointing the way is what I needed, and I felt as though my parents would always be there for me and show me the way, no matter what was happening. That feeling of immense support didn't change when my wife and I had our daughter, Leona, who's now 3 years old, and our son, Julian, who is almost 10 months old. My parents helped take up that mantle of helping us to guide us as they took on their new monikers of Man, and Poppop. It's truly terrifying, the idea of becoming a parent. My wife and I have 2 poorly trained dogs. I used to look at them and wonder how we could do that with kids. The dogs are currently back at my mom and dad's house, and I can almost guarantee that at least one of them has either thrown up or barfed somewhere in the house. Just as my parents are always there for us growing up, they seem to be there even more as Man and Poppop. It gave me such strength to witness Poppop's unwavering confidence and devotion to his grandkids. This came in many forms, and it was sometimes as simple as playing peekaboo and chasing them around the house, or taking the time to count the chimes of the clock he has on his mantle whenever it struck the top of the hour. Since that game he played with Leona counting clocks, he has made those clocks, one for each of the kids, and they're known by my daughter as Poppop's clocks. Julian can't speak yet, but he will also know them as Poppop's clocks. This effort that he put in all the time helped me to realize what's really important. Poppop helped me to make things so simple for us because he helped to give us a good perspective. Let me give you an example. This past year after my son was born, I discovered that New Jersey offers a paid paternity leave. This is a little PSA for anyone who's... they guarantee your job for 3 months with a percentage of your pay. This way both the mother and father are free to spend time with their newborns. I was on the fence about this for a long time because it is a pay cut and it's tough to take a full-time salary down to a part-time salary when you have 2 kids at home. I spoke to Poppop about it, and he all but cut me off. He told me that if he had the opportunity to spend that kind of time with his family, he would do it in a heartbeat, even if he wasn't getting any pay. I took that time off because of what he told me, and it was probably the best 3 months of my life, just getting to spend it with my family. This is what he meant to us. Poppop had this ever-present North Star-esque constitution and was able to drain away the worry and doubt and fear from tough decisions. He always knew what was truly important, and I feel like he helped me to find it. He helped me when I picked colleges, helped me when I changed jobs, helped me when I went back to college and changed jobs, helped me when I decided to ask my wife to marry me, and helped all of us when my wife and I had our 2 kids. He was my go-to person for every question, problem, or concern. It's going to be a lot harder now for me to get his advice, but I know he's still giving it. His help always came with this warmth and love and kindness, and he gave it endlessly. I can still feel that warmth, and I know that he'll continue to guide me and influence me, and ensure nothing but the best for my family. I love you guys.
Hey everybody, I'm Steven, I'm Terry's youngest son. And I don't remember the speech today, I just really wanted to share a memory that I have of my dad, and this is actually the fondest memory that I have of my whole life. So every Christmas Eve, my mom and my dad used to do this paired plan, and so basically my mom would get me and my brothers, or I don't remember, because all of us were the whole time the rumor was running. She would gather me and my brothers up and read this old copy of the Polar Express to us, and it was a really old one. It was really only like 8 pages. I don't even remember what the story was. But downstairs, meanwhile, my dad would be getting dressed up as Santa Claus. And they had this little signal that would ding a bell on the Christmas tree. And my mom would be like, oh, my brothers every year would sneak down the stairs and like peer around the corner and see my dad dressed as Santa Claus, but he was always facing away, so you couldn't see his face. And he would just be making generic Santa Claus noises. And I remember one year in particular, I was 7 years old, and I knew, I was like, I'm too old to believe in Santa Claus, I know he's not real. But after that Christmas, I very specifically remember going into school the next day, and all the kids saying all these presents they got, and I was like, I saw Santa Claus. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. It was safe having him in your life, and it provided this magic that
Brendan, Brian, Stephen, Terry's family and friends. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jerry Lipsky. I've had the privilege of knowing Terry for 37 years. More than 37 years. He was my colleague and fellow attorney for 5 years. He was my law partner for 4 years. He was my boss for 17 years. He was my friend, my role model, my teacher, my hero for all 37 years. I miss him. Even though I speak for a living, I'm a lawyer, I don't trust myself to do so today, so please excuse me if I refer to, or maybe even just read from my notes, because I've not been able to say what I have to say without losing it, and I'm sorry about that. Because of Terry, I was lucky enough to meet Kathy 37 years ago, and to meet each of his incredible sons as they were born. I met Brendan about a year and a half after he was born. Brian, I was in the hospital when you were born. Stephen, I even met you in the hospital at home. I've watched the three of you grow up to be the incredible men that you are, and I have to tell you, and I'm sure you already know this, Terry was always so proud of you. I would hear so many stories that, no offense guys, but eventually I had to say, okay, we've had 25 minutes about the boys. We'll talk about something else. But he watched you grow up. I lived through his eyes and saw you grow up. And he was so proud of each and everything you guys always did, and the men you become, the choices you've made, and the legacy that you live. He told me one time that his greatest legacy is Kathy and his family. And although I certainly understand that, I respectfully would have to suggest he had a lot more of a legacy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that now. I remember building gingerbread houses with you guys back in 1992 or 93. You see some pictures of them up there on the wall. They were disasters. Each of you spent your senior week at my house in Denver. And to this day, I've always kept my promise that what happened in Denver stays in Denver. I'm so sorry. So when I was asked to speak today, of course I was honored. But honestly, I struggled with what to say. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I had too much to say. Those of you that know me know that I can talk. Today I was asked to speak for 5 minutes or less. I could talk for hours about the man that Terry was, how he impacted so many lives and changed so many lives for the better. I look around this room and I see literally dozens of people whose lives are better, both professionally and personally, because of Terry's role in their life. And it just blows my mind how impactful he was and how much of an influence he had and how the influence continues today. I worry that no matter what I say today, no matter how hard I try, I would never capture the true essence of who Terry was. and how he changed so many lives for the better. When I think back over the 37 years that I've been blessed with knowing Terry at the highs and lows of my personal and professional life, I realized that there's but one constant, and that was Terry. He was there to celebrate the highs. In fact, he was responsible for many of my professional successes. He held me literally and figuratively at the low points of my life. I always knew that Terry would stand beside me in times of trouble. What I came to realize early on was that many times he actually stood in front of me, not beside me. I have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of Terry stories. Although my heart has been broken with this news, and I remain heartbroken today, these memories have somehow comforted me in the last week or so. I've spent so much time crying and then hysterically laughing when I think of Terry and his stories. And it goes back and forth, and I probably will certify it during this week. But in talking with Kathy and so many others this past week, I came to realize that although all of us have stories about Terry, none of us really truly appreciate who he was and who he impacted. Today I want to talk about two of the many elements of Terry's life that impressed me the most, and that is integrity and impact. Terry lived and spoke his truth quietly and clearly. He always did what he believed what was right, regardless of the circumstances or the consequences. I'll tell you one of these stories in just a moment. Many of us know about Terry's work with Man in Philadelphia, Man on Beach, and so many other charities. Kathy, Terry, and their sons have worked with us at Man for more than 20 years, and they've helped us prepare food for people that are terminal illnesses. And just this May, Man has served its 20th million meal. Kathy, Terry, and her family have been an essential part of that for more than 20 years. One short story I wanted to talk about demonstrates Terry's integrity and courage. And although it is a little personal, and I don't need too much information, I think it's important for you to understand. I met Terry in 1985 when we were both hired to work at a small but growing defense firm. Terry and I worked on the same team there for about 9 years. 8 to 12 hours a day. He was more experienced than I was and helped me learn how to be a better lawyer and a better person. About 35 years ago, in 1987, I was told by the department that I worked for that the firm had learned that I was a gay man and that this did not fit the image of the firm. He suggested that I should find another job. I left there and went to Terry's office. When I told him what had happened, his face slowly got red. He shook his head and he said, "That's just not right." Excuse me. After a few weeks, when I heard nothing further, I mentioned this again to Terry. He told me, "I guess they changed their mind." 3 or 4 months later, I was in a meeting with the senior partner in the firm and we were talking about a case. During our discussion, he stopped me and said to me, "I'm going to tell you something, but it's confidential." A few months ago, Kennedy, he went there, came, asked for a meeting of the firm's executive committee. He met with us and told us that what we were considering doing with you was strong and simply immoral. He was very persuasive. And then he turned and went back to talk about the case. So I honored my pledge to keep quiet about that until 2004, when we were both with Zurich. And I asked Terry about that. Now you need to understand, when this happened, Terry was not a partner yet. He was an associate. He had no power. And what he did was just mind-blowing to me. So when I asked Terry about this, he said, "Yes." And I said to him, "Why would you have to do something like that? You put your own job at risk." He looked at me and responded. He said, "Jerry, I only did what I had to do." That's integrity. That's courage. John Henry and I will talk in a few minutes about some of the impact that Terry has had on him and other people in our lives, and I know that so many people in this audience have the same story. But I do want to say this. Some of you have heard the story before. But when I was growing up, my dad always told me that it was my job to do the right thing in life, to help others, and to make the world a better place. When I asked how I could make the world a better place by myself, he told me that that every action you take, every kind word you speak, every time you go out of your way for another, it's like throwing a pebble in a pond. It may be a small act, but that pebble causes a ripple. That ripple spreads across the pond, hits the walls, and comes back again. And that changes. So you can make a difference. Terry and his life were not a pebble in the pond of life. He was a boulder. The world will always be a better place because of him and of his impact. I would ask each of you to do me a small favor today. In the next few days or weeks, do 10 random acts of kindness in Terry's honor. Help spread the impact that he's had on so many of us around the world. Help spread it even further. Don't take credit for it. Terry never would. Just do it. Help someone else and do it in Terry's honor. Finally, for those of you who do not know this, Terry was a Trekkie, a Star Trek fan. Or at least he pretended to be when he talked to me. So he would appreciate my final words. Death is that state in which one exists only in the memories and minds of others, which is why it is not an end. To my dear friend Terry, no goodbyes, only good memories, who will be forever by heart.
Remember it that way.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm John Henderzak. I've had the pleasure of working with Terry for 15 years, and I'm going to put this in some context here. Terry worked, I started with him as just a chief trial lawyer. He eventually promoted me to a manager and had me start an office for him in Eastern Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley office. The guy from Fishtown and the kid from Wilkes-Barre connected. We had a lot of, Fishtown, small neighborhood, Wilkes-Barre, small. We had that in common. So after about 5 years, Terry wised up and got out of Phila to save money on the wage tax. He took the office right next to me, and he was there for 15 years till he retired in 2013, 2014. So you heard from Jerry the high esteem we held Terry in. Well, we knew that the moment he retired. And I love this because there's a lot of stories behind this. So Terry, that was Terry's picture for either to get to Canada or it was some corporate picture of his. So we didn't miss a beat, okay? We immediately named Terry's office the Regional Library and Museum. So, and I'll never forget when Kathy came in, we were doing a food drive for Men on Main, and they came in to pick up the food, and when they came up to pick up the food, just cancel the afternoon, we're going out for drinks, we're going out for food, and when Kathy saw that, I've never seen a person laugh so hard, her knees buckle, so, but I told you, we held them in high esteem, but it just seemed that that esteem got higher around the holidays. So, I was having coffee or malfunctions yesterday. Zerk paper, so it's so we really held Terry in high esteem at New Year's. Here's New Year's Eve, Terry. Okay? And you know what? when I ask you to pass it back so the people in the back can see. This is audience participation. Yeah. So that was New Year's, Terry. But then what's the second greatest holiday in the world? Mr. Dangler?
Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog's Day. There's Groundhog's, Terry. Okay? So you guys get the hint what we did every holiday. Terry's a steamlet. I couldn't find a picture of Uncle Sam, Terry, but that was always a good one. So, as you can see, we had fun. Terry liked to have fun with work. Okay, he liked to work hard, but he liked his fun. And he loved to laugh, he loved to joke around. And what made him so special to all of us were his core values in life. And he carried his core values over to work. And he surrounded himself with people who shared his core values. And first thing, foremost, was always family. If you had anything with family, Terry was family comes first. Jerry will remember we were having problems in our King of Prussia office when I was the chief trial lawyer, and we had a kumbaya down at his house at the shore. I had a son who was having my son was kindergarten, he had an anxiety problem and used to chew his lips, and the manager who I was in the TIF with wanted me to put my son in daycare, and Terry goes, no, he will get there when he gets there. And family is more important. So his core value is family. And Jerry hit the nail on the head. I heard more stories about your guys' sports, schools, everything. So, and with family, we took care of family. So if your name's Kennedy, Daughtery, or Gallagher, can you raise your hand if I never represented you on a speeding ticket? There was the course, I think it was within 3 weeks, Brendan. It was Dad first, and then Brendan. And I'm going in front of the judge, and I got to represent my boss who's looking at 5 points, and maybe going to school. And I'm going to the cop and judge, hey, you got to help me out here. This is my boss. It's like if I screw this one up, So they took care of me, and then we took care of you, and then me and you went out, broke some bread, had a drink, So, but he had core values of integrity, trust. At work, it was always an open door. He would always listen to you. But he had core values, what he wanted out of his lawyers: technical excellence, customer service, and he was about making people feel good, the customer, the claimant. And all our marketing efforts were always making people feel good. And we would take people to ball games, out to dinner. I can tell you the famous Jimmy Buffett concert story. But Terry goes to me, John, I wouldn't take a person to the game. I would give that claimant tickets down in the front row, because I wanted that father to look like a big shot to his kids, that I'm taking him to a game, and that my dad is a very important person. So not only was he thinking about the business, he was making this guy look good in front of his family. And that just always resonated with me. So, and like I said, passion. He brought the passion. He lived it, okay? I was next to him for 15 years. I was like his consigliere. I know stories about a lot of you that, that I can't repeat, that I take to my grave. But he would sound things off me all the time, but he had a passion. He had a passion for doing what's right. He didn't care how he looked up above to his superiors. He wanted the right thing done. He wanted the right thing done for his clients. And that was Terry. He always had an open door. And there's that line from the movie Meet the Fockers, the circle of trust. Well, Terry built the trust. We were not afraid to go in. He wanted to know when there was a problem up front, and he was going to fix it with you. Always had your back, always committed to your success. And when I say passion, he was charged with building the band of attorneys on the eastern side of the state. And he went to the well, people he knew, people he practiced with, and he brought the passion. He had me and Lipsky running offices, then he had Bob McDade running office. You want to talk about someone who's committed to success? Kathy McDade sitting there, now a federal judge. She started as a secretary. Terry had her go to law school, became Kathy, if I heard, the best second chair in the world one more time, and I'm the best second chair in the world, my trial partner. Went to Zurich, went to different jobs, now is a federal administrative court judge. Susan Lloyd, who we had, Susan and Jerry are the longest tenured with Terry, maybe Bob and Kathy. Kelly McLaughlin, then the Kemper Susan one, okay. Lisa Molina, the passion, came from Kemper with him. He had me go out and get Schaefer, Frisbee, Dengler, and it's just all people who had the same beliefs, the same ethic, but we had fun together. We had a lot of fun together. You know, Kath, you asked me for stories. You said you love hearing these stories. And my therapy this week was talking to alumni, people who've been gone here for 10 years. I talked to more people. When I was talking, the therapy was awesome, but the grief hangover afterwards was killing me. But you'd be surprised how many people your father, your husband has touched. And I had Linda Hahn calling me from St. Louis, someone who's left a long time ago. But someone in touch. Terry managed the Texas offices, and just the stories. But you know, you're probably looking at who's this guy underdressed for this service today. Obviously, there's a story behind it, and the story comes from Terry. When I was working in King of Prussia, the managers there for I can't say anything nasty today. So, they weren't good. So I was going out we had a claims office out in Mechanicsburg, and I was going out there, you know, to play golf with the adjusters, and we were getting a ton of cases, and Terry encouraged me. Well, I lived near the Kennedys over in Flowertown, Orland area. Our office was in King of Prussia, like 40 minutes away. And then I would drive to Harrisburg, play golf, get home late at night. So I'd go in the office in my shorts and my golf shirt. Well, the manager went ballistic. How dare you, you're breaking the dress code, you're this, you're that. Terry got wind of that. And he goes, hold on, this guy's going the extra mile in Europe as you know what? And Terry comes into me, he goes, John, for the next week, I want you to wear shorts and the most outrageous shirts you can find. And he goes, when I'm there, I'm going to join you. And he did. And he goes to me, come on, since we're dressed this way, we're going golfing. Anything you say, boss. So, I told you he had an open door. He always listened and wanted to do what's right. Susan's going to remember this one when we were out in King of Prussia when the office was in a bad place, and the manager was convincing Terry to come out and fire and brimstone meeting with us. But he must have dropped you off at something because he was there at 7 a.m. and met Susan. So he met Susan there, and Susan filled him in that she's full of soap, as Susan likes to say. And, you know, so then Terry comes into me. He goes, well, Susan told me, boom, boom, boom. Is that true? I go, yeah. And he turns to me. I like to cast on drunk. Terry, no, I don't want to make you spit it out. Terry goes to me, what's wrong with this place? I go, there's no rules. He fell off his chair, and he's like, hold on. John Rule Breaker Hendersack is mad that there's no rules. I said, just think of it, Terry. I know when the speed limit's 55 and I'm going 80. I'm doing it for a reason. And he's like, you got a great point there. So you know what Terry did? He got the fire and brimstone meeting scheduled, and Carl, where are you, buddy? What did he have you do, Carl?
When to cool the beverage.
He said, Carl, to cool the beverage, and in only the Terry Kennedy way, we had beer, wine coolers were in back then for some reason. Go figure, we all, So he had Terry bring that, and we had a good old sit down, drink, and discuss it and hash it out. And that's because he listened. As I told you, Kath, I could go on story, but when I was a young manager, and I see Stacy looking at me right now, she knows what story I'm going to tell. We're down at a national managers meeting at Disney. And when we're at these meetings, the boss man liked the pool. He liked his drinks in the pool. And we had a good time together sitting in that pool after our meetings, all hours of the night. So a group, including I think it was our HR rep, right, Stax? Yeah.
It was.
So it was our HR rep, Mike Grant, who was close to Terry, manager of Chicago, and then Roy DiVincenzo, who passed away about 15 years ago, our manager down in Louisiana. We're standing by the pool coming from dinner. They were in their clothes. And Terry kept saying to him, hey, Mike, you're making me uncomfortable. Can you go get changed? Hey, can you go get changed? Well, he went up there. Finally, he turns to me and he goes, this is ridiculous. He goes, Hendo, and that's my nickname, Hendo. He goes, Hendo, we got bonus shares back in the day. He goes, I will give you 25 shares if you get out of this pool and get them soaked with a cannonball. I never seen easier money in my life. But I didn't believe him. And I go, Terry, you can't do that. And he goes, Stacy? And what'd you say, Stace?
Oh, we'll absolutely make that happen. I paid your certificate off
shares,
myself.
guys. And had some fun. I don't know if you know your dad craves certain foods. He had a craving for things, and when he wanted something, oh my God. You know, there was a short story, we were at a claims event, and me and him are the only people staff over there, and they had like 3 towers of seafood there. And the middle tower was all oysters. You know how your dad loved oysters. I could put my hand in there, and the fork would be hidden. So, so we'd be battling. So all of a sudden he notices, hey, they're not eating their towers of seafood. You go get them. Well, what am I supposed to do? Steal them? He goes, yeah. He goes, let me create a diversion. Needless to say, Terry and I didn't have a meal. We had 3 towers of seafood. Let alone the ones Lauren bought in Florida at that time. But that's another story for another. Like I told you, way too many stories. But I want to tell one final one. We're in Arizona at a meeting, and it was, after a while, they finally gave us like a half day off. Terry liked being by the pool. Hey, craving that. I want a pizza. I want pizza. And I go, well, Terry, I asked yesterday. And this was in the early 2000s before there were such things as foodies. Okay? I said, it's going to be cracker and tomato sauce, or cracker and tomato soup. He goes, I don't care. Fly me New York pizza. I go, well, how the heck am I, and I didn't say heck. I go, but how the heck am I supposed to do that? He goes, well, what do you propose? I said, you want me to go over to a shopping center and ask, where's the people who moved from New York, Philly, or New Jersey? He goes, that's a start, get on. He gave me his credit card, and I think that may have been the trip where we were told to pick up everyone's drinks, right, Stacy? Because, yeah, pick up everyone's drinks. But I keep mentioning Stacy because Stacy and Terry saw the problems of the world back then in the staff league. I mean, those two would go back and forth. But on the trips, they'd seem to be the center of shenanigans. But I went to that parking lot, and I found a guy who moved from Hoboken, New Jersey. I got his greatest sausage pizza sat by the pool, and my bonus went up that year, too. Yes, the theme around here would be food, beverage, Terry, so. Finally, there were days we were in the office, and he'd either be traveling or come in, and Terry had certain cues. He wore a certain suit jacket, he someone's going to fire him. So it was a brown suit jacket with patches on. That was his firing suit. We all knew that as his firing coat. If he walked in with that McDonald's bag in the morning, we knew we weren't getting work done. And he would have days like, and it'd be like, I need a burger. I need a margarita. And Patty Dottery, my office administrator for a long time, who just was lucky enough to retire, we were the ones who were caught in the wash cycle. And not that we'd complain, but there'd be certain days we had to get work done. We're like, Terry, I don't care, let's go. And it'd be, come on, we'll go for just one margarita. No such thing as one margarita, guys. And needless to say, 2 margaritas, 3 margaritas, that we could call maybe Kathy to pick Terry up. You know, so I could go on and on. The laughs, the guy made things happen. The Jimmy Buffett concert that we expensed on Zurich, it was phenomenal for Pat Kuzak. The only thing we didn't get was the hot tub. Jerry had like campers down there, right, Jerry? So, I mean, he made it fun. So, along with his core values, though, you heard about his charity. And before I finish here, I want to tell you, his charities, they were true to his heart, okay? There were a lot of things true to his heart. And in the last couple of years, I know Terry was very upset the way this country's heading and everything. And people can't have disagreement, can't have discussions, can't have discourse. So I'm going to ask you folks to listen to people, to have these conversations, and to respect everyone's opinion, and to have constructive disagreement. Okay? But I'm going to ask you to have an impact on the world like he did. To go out there, volunteer, and we already got stuff in the works. With our Philly office, with Bill and crew, we've got a man-a-day set up in September, October. We'll let all the Zurich alums and everyone know. We're going to try to do the whole day. We got a Ronald McDonald House set up for Terry. We're going to do. And then we're going to, Kathy, I'm going to talk to you. We're going to do a food drive for Thanksgiving and for between the 2 offices for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we'll do that. So people know, Jerry's a Trekkie. I'm not a Trekkie. So I'm a Springsteen fanatic. Okay? Some people have said I've gone to too many concerts. I've said I haven't gone to nothing. I've been over 200 Springsteen concerts. Have my tickets coming up for next year already. But there's a song that was off Bruce's album called, believe it or not, the song is called Terry's Song. It is a song he wrote in 2007 about his assistant, Terry McGovern. The words are so apropos for Terry Kennedy. Well, he built the Titanic to be one of a kind, but many ships have ruled the sea. They built the Eiffel Tower to stand alone, but they could build another if they please. The Taj Mahal, the pyramids of Egypt are unique, I suppose. But when they built Terry, they broke the mold. Now the world is filled with many wonders under the passing sun. And sometimes something comes along and you know for sure it's the only one. And when they built you, brother, they broke the mold. When they built you, Terry, they turned dust into gold. When they built you, brother, they broke the mold. Good song off Magic. It's an extra track. Go home, listen to it, and if it doesn't remind you of our boss, nothing will. In summation, Terry was our mentor and a confidant. He was a man of immense integrity and loyalty. He didn't care about looking good for senior management. He only cared about doing the right thing. He was about the practice of law. He was about our success. I never met someone so committed to our success, someone who had our backs. It was an honor to call him my boss, but I'm more lucky to call him my friend. Thank you.
then after on the phone, they were like, I don't know, but it has any memories and thought they want to share it.
That's a hard act to follow. So I'm going to get a little bit serious. I'm not a poetry person, but Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "The purpose of life is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate. To have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well." As you heard today, Terry made the most of life. He was a loving husband to Kathy for 44 years. He wore many hats, though. He was the very proud father of Brendan, Brian, and Stephen, the brother all his siblings could talk to, father-in-law, brother-in-law, uncle, friend, neighbor, coach, attorney, mentor, election official, a woodworker extraordinaire, and a chef who was always a gracious host and who volunteered his time and talents to manor on Main Street, which he thought was crucial work. Last, he was the doting grandfather who would light up at even the mention of Julian and Leona. He was a lifesaver and an organ donor. He was one of the good ones. Robert Burns wrote, "An honest man here lies at rest, the friend of man, the friend of truth, the friend of age and guide of youth. Few hearts like his with virtue warm, few heads with knowledge so informed. If there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there is none, he made the best of this." That sums up Terry. He was one of the good ones. And a good one.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, if anyone would like to share a memory, I can bring the microphone back to you. Raise your hand. I'll come right up to you so you don't have to come all the way up front. Anyone? I know one of you wants to do it. The best stories told behind and the wall.
Hi, I'm Dan Salva, aka Chef Dan at Man on Main Street. Lucky enough to work with Terry for about 4 years. Being a former chef there doesn't mean sous chef Terry. Those of you who don't know, I know some of you already knew that. But just a couple of general statements. We would always get the volunteer schedule with the names on it the night before from Meg, the volunteer coordinator next to me. And whenever we saw Terry's name on there, we just knew everything was going to be okay that day. Truth be told, in the last week, his loss has been felt both internally and also in the operations of MANA itself. We are literally more behind every day that he was there. And it's like a scramble now without him. Not really. Someone will eventually fill his shoes, maybe, actually. I have one specific memory. We used to do a veterans pancake breakfast every year. In fact, we used to put it in. Okay. We had just lost our culinary directors. We were skeleton crew, and we were, we were like, how are we going to pull this off? And so I'm like, Terry's going to be here. Everything's going to be okay. So he comes in and he's like, all right, I'm ready for my shift. And we're like, you're making pancakes for 2.5 hours. And he's like, what? I've never used that. I'm like, you're Terry, you'll figure it out. So we got him on this commercial toast skillet that's frankly kind of awkward to work in for making pancakes, especially to order for 2 hours. But he just, like anything, got right in there and sweat his way through it as we scrambled around, keeping the gears rolling. I could consult with him on recipes. I remember one time I was like, all right, we're making on the fly, we're gonna make sausage and gravy to put over biscuits, right? Sausage and gravy. And I'm like, I've never done this, Terry. Like, what else goes in this? He's like, you put a lot of black pepper in that. Thank you, Terry. He just always seemed to have the answers. We had a lot of good laughs. We had a lot of great conversations. One more story. Chef T will remember this one. So we were running out of space. We had just the Meals on Wheels, much bigger operation that he walked into. I mean, he walked in actually when he was the only chef allowed in the kitchen at another smaller location, one of my predecessors, but we had him go out into the dining room to try out like 350 pieces of fish, and we had him working with some other folks. And you know, when you have like too many chiefs, sometimes things get lost, and so I kind of peeked my head out and I'm like, that looks like chaos. Now, Terry's out there every time, right? And it was fine, eventually, but it took a lot longer than I expected. He comes back in the kitchen and he's just like, all right, it's like almost 11. I'm like, yep, are there any bars open around here? I was like an episode of The Three Stooges. And, you know, I'm not surprised to hear all these stories about what the race institute we had, and, you know, how committed he was, his integrity, and we saw his half hour early half hour early every shift, so we're in that place and standing with the team. So we're really going to miss him, and all the hands will miss him, and he personally.
Anyone else? Want one more good Terry story? Well, this time, if no one has any stories to share, I always give a piece of advice before you. I didn't know Terry sounded like a phenomenal person. To tell his stories, we need more people like Terry in all our lives. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our service here tonight. On behalf of Terry's family, I'd like to thank all of you for your kind words to his family, your attendance, and your thoughts and prayers over this past difficult days. I'd also like to give you all an opportunity to pay your final respects before departing today. Have a safe trip home today. God bless. It is raining. On Monday. Oh, Wednesday? Oh, I thought you guys came in on Monday. got the address, you got all ahead? Horsham Road.
Yep, I'll take that and send it an alternative this evening.
I think I might have to get one.
I like the way your mask corresponds. I know, that's what I was thinking. Like, I hope to have a guy out there.